Welcome back to True Ghost Vault. Tonight we go where the water never sleeps. Lakes vast, silent, and forgotten. But beneath their still surfaces, something stirs. These are 5 terrifying encounters with what should never have been pulled from the depths. Stories of vanished brothers, cursed reels, glowing eyes, and lakes that remember every name they've taken. Cast your line carefully, because not everything you catch wants to let go. Story 1. What I caught wasn't a fish. I came to the lake because I had nowhere else to go. After my daughter died, the world felt wrong. Too loud, too fast, too full of people pretending they understood loss. My wife left shortly after the funeral. Couldn't look at me without seeing her. Couldn't look at herself either, I guess. So I quit my job, sold the house, and drove north. I found a place just outside of Ottertail, Minnesota. An old A-frame cabin on a private lake. No cell phone reception, no neighbors for miles. Just pine trees, fog, and the quiet slap of water against the dock. It was perfect. I spent the first few days doing nothing. Sleeping, drinking, sitting out on the porch at night with a bottle in my lap, staring at the water. Sometimes I thought I saw shapes moving just below the surface. Shadows that didn't ripple, didn't drift. They just watched. By the 4th night, I took out the old fishing rod the realtor left in the shed. Thought it might give me something to focus on. Something to do with my hands besides shaking. The line hit the water with a soft plunk. Silence, then a tug. I reeled in, fast heart racing. For a moment I felt something heavy dragging on the line. It fought back hard, but then, just as suddenly, it let go. The hook came up empty, but bent, like it had been bitten. Rising sound of wet tension, distant whispering. That night I heard footsteps on the dock, slow creaking boards. I looked out of the window, but there was nothing there. Only fog. Only that same sound I kept hearing, like someone breathing beneath the lake. The next morning I went out again. This time I paddled to the center of the lake, dropped the line, waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Then just as I was about to pull it in, something yanked so hard I nearly fell into the water. I gripped the reel tight. My knuckles turned white. Whatever was down there, it didn't want to come up. It pulled left, then down, then. It stopped. Then I heard it. A voice, faint, high-pitched, coming from the water. "Daddy!" I froze. The line jerked again, harder this time. My arms trembled. It was her voice. I know what my daughter sounded like. I don't care what logic says. "Daddy, why did you leave me?" I dropped the rod, backed away from the edge of the boat. The line remained taut, trembling. I watched the tip of the pole dip slowly, then rise like someone was still holding on down there. And then it spoke again. "Let me up." Sudden water splash. Fast reel whirring. Heartbeat sound begins faintly. I never left the cabin after that. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the armchair facing the window, watching the fog roll off the lake, waiting, hoping the voice had been some kind of grief-induced hallucination. But the line was still taut in the morning. The rod still sat in the middle of the boat, its tip pointed toward the water, like something down there had never let go. By evening, I forced myself to go back. I had to see it. I needed to know. I rowed out before sunset. The lake was dead calm. Not a single ripple disturbed the surface, but the air was wrong, thick and warm, like breath against my skin. I pulled the rod up slowly. The line stretched impossibly far beneath me, disappearing into black. As I reeled in, I felt resistance. Not like a fish, not like weight, more like someone pulling back in rhythm, tension, understanding. I stopped. That's when the voice returned. Clearer now. Closer. "Daddy, I'm cold. I closed my eyes. My hands trembled. She died in winter. Ice on the roads. I had missed her voicemail that morning. If I had just answered. I waited, the voice said. You didn't come. I opened my eyes. The surface of the lake was changing. A patch beneath the boat darkened. A shape rose slow and deliberate. It wasn't swimming. It was being lifted. I tried to move, to scream, to row, but I couldn't. The air had gone still. The lake pressed in from all sides. Then I saw it, just beneath the surface skin. Pale, bloated. A child's face, eyes wide, lips moving soundlessly. My daughter, but it wasn't her. The mouth kept moving, but the words weren't right. Her eyes didn't blink. The skin looked waxy, and there were things wriggling just beneath it, like the lake had grown her out of itself. I'm here now, it said. Stay with me. The line snapped. The boat rocked violently. I nearly went overboard. I didn't look back. I paddled to shore so fast my arms ached for days. I left the rod in the lake. I don't know where it sank. I don't care. That night I barricaded the door, but I still heard her tapping. From the window I stopped eating, stopped shaving, stopped pretending that anything made sense. Every night the voice came back, first from the lake, then from the trees, then from inside the walls. Sometimes it whispered, sometimes it screamed. I searched my daughter's belongings, old drawings, voice memos, a half-burned birthday card. I played her last voicemail on loop until the battery died. I didn't want to forget her voice, but the thing in the lake, it knew it too well. One morning I woke up to wet footprints on the floor, leading from the back door to the fireplace. They were small, bare, too small to be mine. The rug was damp. The coals had been moved. There was a smell in the cabin, algae and rot and something else. Something older, something that had been waiting. I went to town the next day, desperate to speak to someone, anyone. I found an old man at the bait shop who didn't meet my eyes, just said, "You've been staying by Harrow Lake, haven't you?" I asked how he knew. "You've got the look," he said. "People go quiet after that place." I begged him for answers. He told me a story. There was a girl who drowned there in 1967, slipped beneath the ice. They never found the body, but her father swore she came back. He'd see her standing at the edge of the dock, dripping and pale, whispering his name. He started fishing in the dark, said he was trying to pull her soul back from the lake. Then one day they found his boat, drifting. No sign of him, just a single note carved into the wood, caught her. The lake froze over last night. I heard her again, not just calling me now, but weeping from beneath the ice, small fists banging against the frozen surface, pleading. Let me out. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I walked to the dock. The sky was gray. The trees stood still. I took the axe from the shed and hacked through the ice. My breath clouded the air, but the water beneath the broken circle was still, black, bottomless. I leaned in. She stared back at me. My daughter. She didn't float. She didn't rise. She simply stared. Her mouth opened, and I heard her without hearing a whisper directly inside my skull. You left me once. My hands trembled. Tears froze on my cheeks. Don't leave me again. Then the water reached up. Not splashed. Not surged. It reached like fingers pulling at my wrists, wrapping around my throat, dragging me down through the ice hole. The last thing I saw before I slipped beneath was the sky warping and spinning, and a face on the ice watching me go. It was mine. I don't remember hitting the water. I remember the cold, but not the moment it touched me. I remember screaming, but it echoed inward. The lake didn't want sound. It wanted silence. It wanted memory. I sank, faster than I should have. There was no bottom, only blackness, and her face shifting, not rotting, not human, It kept flickering between my daughter and something else, a thing that wore her skin like a lure. The voice spoke again. This time it wasn't hers. You made her wait. Images poured into my head. The accident, her final voicemail, my delay in calling back, the sirens, the blood, the birthday gift still wrapped on the passenger seat. You grieved the version of her you wanted, not who she was. It wasn't accusing, it was stating, cold and absolute. I opened my mouth to argue, but the lake filled me. I don't know how long I was under. Time isn't real here. It's hunger, memory, echo. I saw her again, but younger this time, laughing, spinning in a summer dress on the dock. The one memory I had locked away because it hurt too much to remember. Say it, she said. My chest burned. My lungs screamed. I'm sorry, I mouthed. She didn't smile, but she faded, and the water let go. I woke on the shore coughing up lake water and blood. The ice was gone. The sky was a pale gray, and my hands were raw and bleeding. The axe lay beside me, broken in two. I stumbled back to the cabin. The windows had been shattered from the inside, every photo of her gone. Ash. The floor was covered in small, wet footprints leading to the fireplace. Inside the hearth, something glowed faintly. It was her necklace, the one she wore the day she died. The clasp was open, the chain blackened, like it had been in a fire. I held it for hours. No more voices came that night, only silence. But silence is never empty. It just waits. I packed the next morning, what little was left the keys in the door, didn't look back. But the lake followed me. It's in the corners of every mirror now, in the hum of streetlights, in the way puddles ripple even when there's no wind. I still hear her, not every day, not when I expect it. Sometimes when I'm standing at the sink, sometimes in traffic. Once while brushing my teeth, I heard her whisper from the drain. You caught me, Daddy. I've never gone fishing again. But something tells me she's still on the line, waiting. Story 2. There's a light beneath the lake. They told me the lake was bottomless. Locals say that not because they've measured it, but because it swallows what it wants. Boats, dogs, a teenage couple last spring. A whole dock once. Gone like it had never been there. I didn't believe it at first. I moved here to escape the noise. Bought a cheap lakeside cabin after the divorce, after the trial, after everything fell apart. It was supposed to be quiet, clean, a place to stop thinking. But the first time I saw the light, I knew something was waiting. It was just past midnight. I was standing on the dock, smoking, watching fog drift across the water like milk spilled in slow motion, and then a flicker, a faint pulse beneath the surface. At first I thought it was my reflection, but it moved, it pulsed, not in rhythm, not random. It blinked once, then twice, like a signal. I watched it for 10 minutes, then it vanished. I couldn't sleep that night. Next morning I asked around town, bait shop, gas station, diner. No one would talk about the lake, not directly. You probably saw a lantern boat, one old man said. Fishermen used to use them to draw bait, but his eyes didn't match his words. He knew. They all did. That night I went back. No rod, no drink, just a folding chair and a flashlight. The light came again. Brighter this time. It hovered just below the water, about 15 feet from the dock. Not moving, just there. Cold, blue-white. Too perfect to be natural. Not bioluminescence, not headlights. It didn't reflect, it absorbed everything around it. Looked darker when it appeared, and then it blinked again. This time 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then off, then again, 1, 2, 3. It was speaking. I dropped a weighted flashlight into the water. It fell fast, but the beam didn't penetrate far. The lake swallowed it after a few feet. The light below pulsed again, stronger now, like it was angry, like it had been interrupted. I heard something then, a vibration in my teeth. Words, not sound. You see me. It wasn't a question. It was a recognition. My nose started to bleed. I stumbled back to the cabin and locked every door. I dreamed of the light that night. It wasn't just beneath the lake. It was inside my chest, burning through my ribs, turning everything hollow. I woke up screaming. The next day there were boot prints on the dock, not mine. Bare feet, narrow, pointed toes. Dozens of them circling, all leading toward the shore and back again, like something had paced all night, waiting for me. I couldn't stop going back. I told myself it was obsession, that I needed answers. But the truth is I missed it when it wasn't there. I sat out each night watching, waiting. One night it moved closer, 10 feet, then 5. I leaned over the edge, staring into the light, and I saw it not a shape, but a negative of 1. Like the light outlined something vast, curled just beneath the surface. Not fish, not human, coiled, sleeping. Then it opened its eye, and I realized what I had been seeing all this time was just a pupil. Found a journal in the crawl space beneath the cabin, wrapped in oilcloth, moldering but intact. It belonged to a man named Samuel Wythe, dated 1952. He described the light almost exactly. He called it the listener, said it heard thoughts, that it rewarded those who kept coming back, that it could show you the ones you lost. The last entry chilled me. Tonight I go under. It promised me Margaret's voice, and I miss her too much to stay dry. The journal ended there. The cabin's previous owner, a missing person, declared dead, never found. I stayed away for 3 days, didn't sleep, didn't eat, tried to pack, but every time I zipped a bag, I felt it like static behind my eyes, like pressure just under my skull. The light had gotten into me. On the 3rd night, it spoke again, not through sound, through memory. I saw my brother, Evan. He drowned when we were kids. I was 12. He was 9. We'd snuck onto a frozen lake, and he fell through. I never told anyone that I ran, that I didn't even try to help him. But now, the lake knew. I saw him in the light, pale, wet, blinking through the water like it didn't sting his eyes, smiling. He mouthed one word, "Stay." I stood on the dock barefoot in the frost. The planks were slick beneath me. The light grew larger. The surface began to ripple outward in perfect concentric circles. That's when I realized it wasn't drawing me in. It was rising. I don't know how long I stood there, hours maybe. The light spread across the lake like oil catching fire. Beautiful, mesmerizing. And then right beside the dock, something broke the surface. It looked like me. Same face, same height, same scar above the left eyebrow. But its mouth was wrong. Too wide. The smile too steady. It didn't blink. It pointed to the water. And I, like a sleepwalker, stepped forward. It didn't grab me. It welcomed me. The water was warm, gentle. I should have drowned, but I sank slowly like a child, slipping into a dream. Down there, the light wasn't just light. It was memory, regret. Every moment I tried to forget played across its surface, and it showed me what I looked like when I lied, when I ran, when I didn't care enough to try. But deeper, there was something else. A hum beneath the guilt. A presence. Older than language, older than form. It wasn't in the lake. It was the lake. And I had been feeding it. It doesn't want your soul. It doesn't want your body. It wants your truth. The parts you bury. The things you can't say aloud. The choices you never forgave yourself for. The more I sank, the more I remembered. Faces, names, moments I swore I'd let go of. They clung to me like silt, weighing me down. I reached a point where I stopped falling, and there it was. Not a creature, not a god, a wound in reality. A wound shaped like a mouth, wide and pulsing with light. And around it, suspended, were dozens of others. People, floating, eyes open, not alive, not dead, caught in the light. I recognized one, Samuel Wythe. His mouth was open, but no sound came. Then I saw Evan again. He reached for me, and I made the mistake of reaching back. The moment our hands touched, something broke. Not the surface above me that was gone, erased, but the tension in my mind, like a dam collapsing. Every memory, every emotion I'd swallowed for decades came rushing back at once. Evan's scream as he went under, my mother's face at the funeral, the lie I told I tried to save him, the silence that followed me through life. The light surged, and for one heartbeat I saw what it really was. A mirror made of water, a lens that magnified the worst in you, a filter that stripped away illusion, leaving only your raw, bleeding self exposed and watched. And once it knew you, it kept you, not in anger, not in cruelty, into understanding. I tried to pull away, tried to swim, but I wasn't moving. My arms flailed like a puppet's. I didn't feel the water anymore. Just memory, just pressure. Above me, the doppelganger, the version of me that climbed from the lake, stood on the dock, breathing my air, wearing my name, and I realized something sickening. That's what the light does. It replaces you with the version of yourself that it builds from what you won't face, the version you deserve. They found my boat 2 weeks later, floating half a mile from the dock. The cabin was locked. My clothes were still inside, nothing stolen, no signs of a struggle. The man they questioned, the one who answered the door, looked just like me, but he smiled too often, talked too slow, never blinked at the right time. They let him go. He lives in my house now. He wears my skin. He visits the dock every night and whispers to the water. Not with sadness, not with fear, with gratitude, because he remembers things I tried to forget, because he is the version that stayed, and I'm still here, below, watching the light, waiting for it to blink again, because maybe, just maybe, it'll let me come back. Story 3. My father said the lake was cursed. Now I understand why. He only had one rule: never go near the lake after dark. He never explained it, never yelled, just said it flat, like saying, don't touch the stove or keep the door locked. We lived in a rotting house 30 yards from its edge. Briar Lake. Quiet. Too quiet. The kind of place where trees grow like bars and the fog never fully lifts. I broke the rule when I was 16, and I never forgave myself for it. It was summer, too hot to sleep. The air tasted like dirt and rust. I remember hearing something that night, not a splash, not wind, but music. A soft humming from the lake. It sounded like my mother's lullaby. She died when I was 8. Drowned. They never found the body. Dad said she slipped. I always thought she jumped. The sound lured me, not in a mystical, hypnotized way, just curious, hungry. I crept out around 1:30 a.m., barefoot, shirtless. The dock was slick with dew. The water was black and still, and the humming stopped the moment I stepped onto the wood. But something else started. A ripple, then a whisper, then a light. Faint greenish yellow, like something phosphorescent moving just beneath the surface. I leaned forward. Something was looking back. The next morning, my father slapped me, hard, First and only time. You went down there, he said. No question. Just fact. It saw you. I asked him what it was. He didn't answer. That night, he sat me down and told me a story. Not like a bedtime tale, like a confession. He said the lake was never natural, that it was fed by underground caverns, some of which no one's ever mapped. That back in 1939, a mining company tried to pump it dry and went missing. He said people drown in Briar Lake every few years, but most of them were never reported because they weren't accidents. They were offers. The lake takes what it wants, and sometimes people give. I asked him why. We still lived here. He looked me dead in the eyes and said I owe it something. For weeks after I had the same dream, I was underwater, deep, too deep. My limbs moved slowly like syrup. There were voices down there, dozens, maybe hundreds, but none of them made sense. They were gurgled, distant. Still, I understood. Come back. You heard us. You belong. And always in the distance, something glowing. Sometimes it was a lantern, sometimes a mouth. Sometimes it was my mother. She never blinked. One night I caught him, dragging something heavy through the trees. A sack, black, wet. He didn't know I followed. I watched from the reeds as he dumped it into the lake. No words, just silence. But the water moved. It opened, and I saw something rise, a shape like a person, but elongated the limbs jointless, the head too wide. It accepted the sack, then sank, and the lake went still again. My father turned and looked directly at where I was hiding. You saw? I nodded. He didn't get angry this time. He just said, then you understand. It doesn't stop. Not ever. It only trades. The first thing it took was the animals. Our dog Milo vanished one morning. No paw prints, no blood. Just his collar on the dock, wet and twisted, like it had been chewed off from the inside. Then came the neighbors. The Lee family 2 cabins down, gone without a trace. Their windows wide open, plates still on the table TV, humming static. The sheriff chalked it up to a sudden move, but Dad and I knew. We just didn't say it. The lake was getting hungry again. Dad started drinking more, talking to himself, whispering names I didn't recognize. He spent hours each night sitting at the water's edge with a flashlight and a jar of old coins, tossing them in, one by one, like he was buying time. And maybe he was, because something had changed. The lake wasn't just taking anymore. It was watching. I woke to the sound of a scream. It wasn't loud, more like a gasp that didn't quite make it. I found him outside, standing on the dock in his robe, eyes wide, mouth open, staring at something just beneath the water. I didn't see it at first, but then I did. A face, bloated, hollow, smiling. It was my mother, only it wasn't. Its eyes didn't blink. The mouth didn't move, but I heard the words like a vibration inside my skull. Your debt is paid. And just like that, the dock gave way beneath him. My father plunged down without a splash. The water swallowed him like he'd never been there. I ran to the edge. Nothing. No ripples, no bubbles, just my reflection and something else behind it, watching me, waiting. I tried to leave, packed the car, drove for hours, but every road looped back to the same gravel driveway, like the town had folded in on itself, or the lake had grown. I stopped fighting after the 5th attempt. It doesn't want blood. It doesn't want sacrifice. It wants memory. It wants secrets. It wants stories. And it's been listening to mine this entire time. Every word I say, every thought I bury, every shame I carry, it feeds on them. It drinks silence. It drowns truth. And now that I am alone, it's my turn to tell the next chapter. I stopped writing in notebooks. They'd vanish by morning. I carved the words into the walls, into my arms, into the underside of the dock where I know no one will ever look. It wants permanence. It wants pain. It wants me to remember. The dreams don't stop now. I wake up soaked, lungs burning, like I'd been underwater. I can't find mirrors anymore. Every reflection is wrong. They smile too wide, blink too late, whisper before I speak. I don't leave the house after dusk, because now when the lake hums at night, it hums with my voice. I caught my own face watching from the water, not a reflection, a copy, a thing that learned me from the inside out. It knows what I hate about myself, and it's better at being me than I ever was. I know now why my father stayed, why he whispered names into jars and fed the lake his shame. It doesn't forget. Every wrong, every regret, every sin buried beneath our skin, it stores them, it grows on them, it makes shapes from them, and then, when we're weakest, it gives them back. Not to forgive, to replace. Last night I saw my father walking across the lake barefoot, smiling. But his eyes were still drowning. His body flickered in the moonlight like bad film. He didn't speak, just nodded. And behind him, my mother. And behind her, me. Or something close, waiting for me to join them. And I think I will, because I hear the humming again. Because I'm tired of running. Because I can't remember what my real voice sounds like anymore. And when I go under, when I stop fighting, someone else will walk out. Someone who never broke the rule. Someone who's empty enough to belong here. Story 4. The reel kept turning. But I wasn't pulling. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I bought the cabin because I wanted to be alone. After everything, the layoffs, the divorce, my brother's death, I needed a place without noise, without people. A single-room structure tucked deep in the Minnesota woods next to a lake no one had fished in for years. That's what drew me in. The stillness, the silence. But the silence didn't last. The reel started turning on my third night there, and I wasn't touching it. I found the rod in the boathouse. A rusted Penn Senator probably hadn't seen use since the 80s. The line was intact, the reel stiff, but smooth. Someone had cleaned it recently. That bothered me. No one had lived in the cabin for over a decade. I asked the agent who sold me the place. He shrugged, said the last owner left without notice. Left most things behind. That included this fishing rod placed upright line, already cast, tied to a wooden railing at the end of the dock. Like someone walked away mid-catch. I didn't move it. That was my first mistake. I was inside eating canned chili when I heard it. A soft metallic tick, tick, tick. At first, I thought it was the wind until I noticed the air was completely still. The sound came again. I walked out to the dock. The reel was turning. Slow, methodical, controlled. As if something was gently pulling the line from the depths. Not yanking, reeling. But no one else was there. No fish broke the surface. No ripple. No sound but the turning of the reel. I grabbed the handle. It stopped. I stared into the lake. Black and still. Too still. Then I heard it from the water below. A voice. Muffled. Garbled. Distant. My name. I didn't sleep. All night I lay there listening to the lake breathe. That's how it sounded like. Lungs, deep and slow. Inhale, exhale, lapping against the shore with unnatural rhythm. I woke up with a sore jaw. I'd been clenching my teeth. There were marks on the window, wet streaks, finger length, too long to be mine, not animal. The reel had turned again overnight, 3 full revolutions. The line was tighter now, stretched toward the lake like a leash. I tried pulling it in. It didn't move. It didn't resist either. Just held me. And then the voice came again, softer, clearer. Don't. I let go. I should have cut the damn thing. Should have taken a knife and sliced the line where it disappeared into the black. But I didn't, because part of me wanted to know how far it went. The reel wasn't like any fishing rod I'd ever seen. The line kept going, spool after spool winding out in impossible lengths. When I unscrewed the drag cap to inspect the internals, the housing was warm. Not from the sun, from within. It pulsed, like something was alive inside it. That night, I set up a trail camera on the dock. When I reviewed the footage in the morning, my hands went cold. At 3:08 a.m., the reel turned once. At 3:09, the dock boards flexed inward as if underweight. At 3:11, a tall, thin shape stood directly in front of the camera, inches from the lens. And at 3:12, it leaned down and whispered my name. I woke to a sharp, deep ache in my palm, like a splinter, but wrong. When I looked, I saw it, a thin black thread just beneath the skin, looping around my ring finger and burrowing toward the wrist. I tried cutting it out. It wouldn't budge. I burned it. It didn't blister. It moved when I screamed. I ran to the dock to confront it, to throw the damn reel in, but when I grabbed it, the line tugged back, gentle, patient, firm, like it had been waiting for me to give in. I didn't drop it. I reeled, and something on the other end reeled me. I blacked out. I woke at the edge of the lake, face pressed against damp wood, the reel in my hands. Blood on the handle, teeth marks in my tongue. Something had surfaced. Not a fish, not human, a mouth. That's all I can call it. Circular, pale, skinless, floating on the water, like a flower made of hunger. In the center, an eye, open, watching. I dropped the rod. The eye blinked, and then it began to turn. The reel moved again, this time spinning outward at a speed too fast for human hands. Something left the lake. Not all at once, not like a breach, more like it was unfolding. I backed away, but the line still threaded beneath my skin, pulled, and I understood this wasn't about catching anything. I was the bait. The reel doesn't just hold line, it holds memory. Every crank stores a moment. Every inch pulled tightens the past around your bones. That's what it fed on, not flesh, not blood, but what you can't forget, what you won't admit. I saw them when I touched the rod again. My brother face down in the creek after I dared him to jump. My ex-wife sobbing in the doorway the night I said something I can't even repeat now. The last voicemail from my mom I never returned. Each of them appeared in the water, staring up at me, and the reel kept turning, slow, relentless, like it was winding the truth out of me, inch by inch, until I was hollow enough to disappear. I tried to cut the line again, tried fire, steel, even my own teeth. Nothing worked, until I realized it wasn't the line that held me. It was me. I had to want to let go, but you don't understand what that means until you try. It's not just walking away, it's letting go of guilt, of identity, of the weight you've carried so long. You think it is you. Standing on the dock that final night, I held the reel in one hand, my whole life in the other, and I let go. The line snapped back like a whip. The lake convulsed, and the mouth sank below, folding in on itself without sound, dragging all the false versions of me with it. The dock cracked beneath me. The rod turned to ash in my hand. I moved out the next day, but sometimes late at night I hear it again. Not in the cabin, not in a dream, in my bones. The faint metallic sound of a reel turning all on its own, pulling in something just beneath the surface of who I am, something I thought I left behind. And I wonder if I was really the one who let go, or if the lake just found a better grip. Story 5. My brother went fishing alone and never came back until last night. It's been 15 years since my brother vanished, and last night he came back, still wearing the same soaked red flannel. Still 23, still smelling like lake rot and old leaves. But something's wrong. He hasn't blinked once. He came back from a lake that shouldn't give anything back. We were camping near Lake Dalhousie, Northern Ontario, a remote place. No cell signal, no rangers, just us two brothers, a rented rowboat, and miles of cold, silent water. Jacob went out early that morning, said he wanted to try for a pike near the north edge, a part of the lake that doesn't show up on maps. The locals call it Old Drown. He never came back. We looked for him for days. The search party dragged the lake with sonar, drones, divers, dogs, nothing. No boat, no gear, no body. Only the dock rope left behind cleanly cut, and the echo of something moving beneath the surface, a low hum the sonar couldn't place. They blamed the weather, the currents, the cold. I knew better. Jacob didn't drown. The lake took him. Last night I woke up to knocking, 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the cabin door. When I opened it, he was standing there, soaked, still dripping lake water onto the porch, though it hadn't rained in weeks. He smiled, not the way people smile, too symmetrical, too wide, too calm. "Hey, little brother," he said, voice steady, empty. My knees buckled. I wanted to run, but I let him in. Because if I didn't, I felt like the lake would send something worse. He doesn't sleep, just sits in the armchair staring at the fire, like he's trying to remember how to feel warm. Sometimes I catch him watching me, not in a brotherly way, like he's studying me, like he's waiting for something to hatch. His hands are wrong. The fingers curve slightly inward, like they've adapted to pressure. His skin, clammy, translucent in the light. Sometimes I see veins pulse too fast, like something inside is trying to get out. And when he speaks, there's always water in his throat. I found his old tackle box buried in the shed this morning, covered in dried algae, the kind that only grows at the lake's deepest levels. Inside, everything was melted, not rusted, not corroded, melted. Hooks warped like plastic, the fishing line fused into a single gelatinous strand. There was a photo in the bottom, a photo I'd never seen. Me and Jacob, young, standing at the edge of the dock, but in the background, there's something else. A massive shadow in the water, long, coiled, with the glint of an eye the size of a dinner plate. Something watching. I went back to Lake Dalhousie. I shouldn't have, but I had to see it again. The same spot where Jacob vanished, North End. Locals still won't go near it. As I rode across, the air changed. Thicker, quiet. Even the insects stopped humming, and then I felt it. Pressure, like being watched by something that filled the sky, only it was below me. The water shifted, a slow, steady current that had no wind to cause it. The boat tilted slightly left, not from a wave, but a mass moving beneath me, something gargantuan. I leaned over the edge, and I saw it. A single ridge rising beneath the surface, like the back of a beast the size of a train. Covered in barnacles, scars, algae. A deep gash ran along its spine, old but not healed. It moved without urgency, because it had no predators, because it remembered me. That night back at the cabin, Jacob spoke in his sleep. Only it wasn't him. The voice was wet, gurgling, ancient. It spoke of cold tunnels below the lake, of pressure and time, and the mouths beneath the mud, of sacrifices. It said my name, then laughed, a slow bubbling sound like water rolling over bone. I grabbed a flashlight and shined it at him. His eyes were open. "Did you enjoy your visit?" he asked, lips unmoving. His mouth stayed shut. The words came from inside him, from behind his teeth, from beneath his voice. He smiled again. I didn't sleep. He's changing more each day. This morning I found him on the dock, barefoot, staring at the lake, arms outstretched. His skin was peeling in long, translucent strips, not from dryness, from molting. There were gills, slits along the side of his neck that opened and closed, rhythmically, breathing something that wasn't air. The smell that followed him now was unbearable, rotting wood and wet metal. I tried calling someone, but my phone played only static, until a voice whispered from the speaker, "It isn't done. He's not my brother anymore. He's a vessel. Something old wears his skin now, and it's patient." Tonight I found him dragging a rope back from the shed, the same rope he'd used 15 years ago when he went fishing. He looked at me with those empty, wide eyes. "I need you to come out with me." I asked why. His smile returned. The lake asked for both of us. The reel in the boat had already been cast. It was turning, and I wasn't pulling.